The Marvel Rivals closed alpha test begins on May 10th with 19 characters confirmed to be playable. However, NetEase Games has already confirmed that more characters will be added over time. These are my top 7 characters that I think should be added to the game, as they can have incredible kits and abilities that would fit directly into the multiplayer style game that is Marvel Rivals. For each of these characters, I'll go over what I think their abilities and ultimates can be to provide the most epic in-game experience. Let's jump right into it. At number 7 is Ant-Man. With Scott Lang's ability to shrink and grow with the Pym particles, I feel that his character would provide for more strategy and unique gameplay to Marvel Rivals. Here's how it would look. He'd be more of your standard class since he isn't too fast at regular human size, but not large enough to where he can be a tank, or at least not in his regular form. Like we saw how players can transform into the Hulk from Bruce Banner, Ant-Man will have a similar style where he is human size for most of the time. His first ability that recharges the fastest is his ability to shrink in size. Enemy players will still be able to see and try to fight him, but the best strategy for this is to use this ability when either sneaking into combat to surprise attack an enemy or retreat in a scenario where you are outnumbered. I would expect this ability to have a very short cooldown since this is Ant-Man's main trait. His other 2 abilities are similar, where he can catch a ride on a teammate's shoulder and then grow back to human size at the press of a button, creating a quick 2v1 scenario against a single opponent. The last regular ability would be to summon an army of technologically advanced ants, just like we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. To round out Ant-Man's kit, his ultimate ability would be to become Giant Man. With Marvel Rivals having the destructive environments mechanic, there is a lot of potential with what Giant Man can do. He could be able to grab debris and hurl it at opponents, or be able to easily smash through walls to give his team the best fighting chance. While this ultimate ability is active, Giant Man will have an incredible amount of health, do a ton of damage, but be really slow moving. Now, that's only the first character. Let's jump on to number 6, which is Kingpin. Of the original 19 character roster, there appears to be more heroes than villains, probably to build excitement with these characters given that they are amongst the most popular Marvel characters in the franchise. That's where Kingpin can come in and balance things out. Given how every adaptation of Kingpin, from Into the Spider-Verse to the Insomniac universe, has him being a tank, that's exactly the style of play that Kingpin would play in Marvel Rivals. Meant to draw enemy attention as best as possible, Kingpin would have a larger health pool than others, but move a little slower. His first ability would be to make up that exact weakness with a shoulder charge. It's no secret that Wilson Fisk can pack a punch, so why not have him be like a raging bull to get quickly back into the fight. His next ability would also utilize his strength with a ground slam. Continuing on how this plays into the destructive environment, Kingpin's ground slam could wipe out an entire floor of a building, causing it to crash down to the next one, which can catch your opponents off guard if timed and used correctly. Lastly, Fisk's third ability will be to pull out his cane to use as a ranged weapon and generate a laser beam. If you ever played Marvel Contest of Champions, you know that this is one of Kingpin's special attacks, and a powerful one at that. Plus, it seems from the reveal trailer that most characters will need to have some sort of range attack to be viable in a competitive setting. Now, what about his ultimate? We know Kingpin has a lot of money and mercenaries at his disposal, so with the synopsis of Marvel Rivals being a collision between universes and creating a time stream, why not have Kingpin be able to summon his mercs from the time stream? It would need to be about only 2 to 4 men being summoned, as we don't want too many that makes it a broken ability, but not enough to have nobody want to play Kingpin. This could also be an ability that would allow for the developers to get really creative with showing Kingpin's true power. At number 5 is Cable. There's a lot of potential to have this character be a player favorite with his advanced and unique mutant powers. Here's the kit that I would have in mind for the son of Scott Summers and Jean Grey. First, his quick recharge ability would be using his ability to open portals and travel through space-time to access other areas of the battleground quickly. This would be similar to the teaser for Doctor Strange's portal ability that we saw in the reveal trailer, but more focused on individual use for just Cable instead of allowing other heroes to pass through. His other 2 abilities would be more focused on his weaponry, first being his EMP grenade that we saw at the end of an episode of X-Men 97. With Cable being from the future, I feel it would be super important to have some of that technology built into his kit. Then, his last ability would be an alternate firing mode to his gun that he carries with him. In my mind, this could be a more concentrated beam or a flamethrower or even a rapid fire mode that allows Cable to shred through larger health pools of stronger characters. It could even be an area of effect single shot use to send around a corner or an objective on the map. Again, there is so much creative potential with Cable as a character and all of his known abilities, with him being from the future. Oh, and how could I forget his ultimate? His ultimate would be utilizing his time travel powers. Here's how I imagine it. When taking near fatal damage, players can use Cable's ultimate attack to travel back in time and save himself, still being about 1 HP when traveling back. However, he now knows where nearby enemies were all positioned and can share that information for a few seconds with other members of his team, allowing for a more utility-based kit to players to be the ultimate teammate. Moving on to number 4, I have Captain America at this spot. I was honestly surprised not to see him or Thor in the trailers since they were amongst the original 6 Avengers and incredibly popular characters in the world of Marvel. I'm not gonna lie, I also want Steve Rogers added because of the team-up potential. I can already picture him teaming up with Iron Man to reflect his repulsor blast off of his shield to attack nearby players or even the environment, or even how he can have ground-based players run towards him and leap them off of his shield like he did with Black Widow in the first Avengers movie. Okay, got a little distracted there, but let's dive into what I picture for his abilities. First would be a shield charge. Captain America would be able to use this for quick movement across the map while also having it be a way to protect himself when moving forward. Even better, if he makes contact with an enemy, this would cause massive amounts of damage. His next ability would be much more of a defensive one where he hides more behind his shield to draw out enemy fire and attention. To be honest, this is more of a bait play to have your opponents distracted while your teammates take them out, but if NetEase Games ever adds in objectives as more of objective-based game modes, then Captain America would be a great choice. His last regular ability is a shield slam. We know from the first 2 Avengers movies that Captain America's shield can pack quite a punch if hit with enough velocity, so why not have the super soldier slam that into the ground as hard as he can to deal damage to all of these players within a radius. Heck, with the destructive environment, again, he can slam his shield into the ground to cause nearby buildings and objectives to shatter into tens of pieces. Now, his ultimate ability will continue to revolve around his shield, but continue on the theme of having him be the most impactful in close quarters. His ultimate would allow for Steve to throw his shield in a circle 3 times, growing in radius each pass. This attack would be pretty much a one-shot to all nearby players, as Steve would use all of his super soldier strength to throw his shield as hard as he can. Obviously, if characters had flight capabilities, this is super easy to dodge once his shield is thrown, making Steve more of a challenge for players to master. Now, I am a little biased with this next character that I picked at number 3, as it is another mutant, but this guy is my favorite and I would be over the moon if he was added. I'm talking about Nightcrawler. Kurt Wagner's teleportation ability would be something that I would be using a bunch in games. Of course, this is his first passive ability with a quick cooldown. The only limitation to it would be you can only teleport quickly to places you can see in your field of view. With this quick cooldown, you would be very difficult for someone like Iron Man to lock onto or Hulk to try to smash. This would be balanced out with Nightcrawler being part of the light class, essentially being a glass cannon. Players that were to get close to others as Nightcrawlers would instantly be able to slash their way through with Kurt's swords. Another limiting trait would be that Kurt wouldn't be able to alter the environment that much in terms of knocking down buildings, making him the ultimate 1v1 one-on-one type of character. Without even introducing his other abilities, the highlight reel potential is off the charts, as I already know that the most skilled players in Marvel Rivals will be capable of wiping out entire teams as Nightcrawler, making his kit one that would require constant balancing changes to make sure it doesn't become too overpowered. Other than teleporting, Nightcrawler's other abilities would include being able to muster up a quick lethal combination with both of his swords, maybe a spin attack. I'd be open to a lot as long as it is a rare ability to use, but an extremely powerful one. The last of his regular abilities would be to be capable of teleporting a teammate. We've seen this a few times in other Marvel projects where anyone that grabs onto Kurt will teleport with him, giving this the opportunity for him to fill a support style role in Marvel Rivals as well. Teammates that are wounded or looking to reset can grab onto Nightcrawler and teleport away with him. This would be only limited to one player though, says we don't want this to be too overpowering. Now for his ultimate, say that Kurt teleports into a room full of opponents all close to each other. His rage style ultimate would allow for him to make short work of each player. If you remember the train scene from X-Men Dark Phoenix, this is what I would have in mind, as each of the enemies on that train were all close to each other and made Kurt go full menace mode. I would like to see an ability like this if Nightcrawler ever makes his way into Marvel Rivals. Now I mentioned several heroes for my last 3, so let's now go with a villain. The one I have at number 2 is Venom. More of an anti-hero in the latest comics, Eddie Brock would have some serious potential as the symbiote monster. He wouldn't be on the same power level as the one we saw in Insomniac Games Spider-Man 2, where he has wings or having the Enigma Force when he fought Null, but more going back to basics and using the power of the symbiote. All 3 of his abilities would revolve around this. Let me quickly mention that I have more of a tank style play for Venom, so his abilities all revolve around that. His first ability would be a symbiote shield. Venom would use some of the excess symbiote goo to create a large shield in front of him that would slowly deteriorate as other players blasted into it. Also, Venom would only be able to walk while the shield was active, but he could easily retract it at any given moment to sprint and move faster. Next would be a symbiote grab. Like we saw in Spider-Man 2, Venom would be able to use the symbiote to grab a nearby opponent and drag them in close before unleashing a barrage of attacks on them. This would give Venom some great opportunities to slowly pick his opponents off one by one from the map, but the range would have to be limited to not be super far, as that would just be broken. His last regular ability would be a symbiote bomb. To compete with range-based characters like Rocket, Iron Man, Star-Lord, Venom is going to need some additional range, and why not have him use the symbiote to make a bomb-sized projectile to throw at his opponents? Players will need to understand that this is a projectile and will have an angle to it, not always making it guaranteed that it will strike someone. Now let's dive into Venom's ultimate. I really like the symbiote surge ability for Peter in Spider-Man 2, so I got a little inspiration from that, as this would be similar to Venom's ultimate in Marvel Rivals. Venom would become almost indestructible upon activation. The sign that the ultimate has been activated would be Venom unleashing a primal roar before being able to leap across the battlefield to the nearest target. Once at close enough range, Venom will use all of his known symbiote abilities to wreak havoc, causing damage to both players and the environment. If the devs want to go over the top with this, they can have the walls and floor begin getting covered in this black symbiote goo. This would be lots of damage from Venom, all while being incredibly strong and having high damage resistance, unless of course it's powerful sonic based sounds. Now at number 1, I feel like the community may be with me on this, as we are all excited to see this character coming back to live action, and that is Wolverine, taking the top spot as my most wanted character in Marvel Rivals. With him having interactions with almost every hero in the Marvel universe, there would be no shortage of inspiration for team up abilities with other heroes. Not to mention that if NetEase ever adds Gambit, we could recreate that one moment from X-Men 97. Anyways, let's dive into his abilities. These would all be pretty standard to Logan. First would be an AoE attack I would call X-Slash. Upon activation, Wolverine would swing both of his claws in an X-style attack to cause damage and destruction to anything in the surrounding area. I always remember this being a common ability that we've seen Wolverine have in other Marvel media, including some previous games. The next ability would be utilizing Logan's enhanced senses, in particular his sense of smell and tracking. When used, Logan would be able to see footprints of the nearest character and be able to track them. If you ever played Apex Legends, this would be like Bloodhound's passive, where he can detect recent player activity and later scan to detect where they are nearby. This would be slightly different for Logan, as it would only be limited to one player to avoid making it too unbalanced. Of course, you can't talk about Wolverine without talking about his incredible regeneration abilities. This would be his third ability, giving players the ability to heal almost all of their health over the span of a few seconds. While this kit seems basic, it can be utilized in a lot of different ways to fit into all kinds of team compositions. And for his ultimate ability, I would have it be called Adamantium Rage, where everything is enhanced. Regeneration? Yep. Once you've avoided combat for about 1 second. Increased damage? You betcha. More mobile? You know it. If you've ever seen Logan, this would be pretty similar to that forest scene near the end of the movie. Nonetheless, you get the point. Full primal range from a very popular character. And that's it. Those are my top 7 characters that I want in Marvel Rivals. I'm curious to hear what characters you want to see in the comments down below. Until then, have a great rest of your day, wherever you may be.